So, I'm just testing out the new sound system. Is it working okay? Are we all set? Thank you. What?
Good morning. I would invite you to rise in body or in spirit and to turn in the gray hymnal to our opening hymn, number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, number 188. We'll sing through this this 3 times, and on the second and third time, you may hear the Y'all Come Singers making mischief. Feel free to join in or go your own way or stick with me. There's no wrong way to do it. Here's number 188. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, causes no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, causes no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, causes no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Reverend Theresa Rohlck. I'm your Minister of Pastoral Care. Welcome to all who have ventured out on this beautiful, cool, final Sunday in June, and to all who are joining us now on live stream or at a later time. I am very glad that you are here. Welcome to the First Congregational Unitarian Society of Ann Arbor. Oh, wait. I'm sorry, that's what we were called in 1865. So welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Ann Arbor. Okay, the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Ann Arbor. We took that new name after the 2 denominations, the Unitarian and the Universalist, merged in May of 1961. Now, as an aside, you might not be surprised to know that both sides were afraid of losing their identity in the merger, and that the merger was not without debate. There were 23 amendments to the merger agreement, and one of the hottest debates in 1959 was whether to add specific reference to Christianity in the Article 2 bylaws, which outlined the principles and purposes of the new Unitarian Universalist Association. So now I truly do want to welcome you to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor. There are no doubt some of you here who remember when the change from church to congregation happened. Yeah, some of you do. And no doubt recall it was also not without conflict. Change is the constant and a defining feature of Unitarian Universalism. We call ourselves a living tradition for a reason. Living things evolve, change, adapt, grow. So it's not surprising that our name has changed over 160 years, and not surprising that we are again experiencing a moment of historic change in the denomination. Now, General Assembly is the denomination's annual gathering. Congregations across the country send delegates to participate in the business of the denomination and vote on issues at hand. This year, one of those issues was a change in the wording of the Article 2 of the bylaws, which, put very simply, is where we define who we are. The Article 2 vote was for a change from a list of principles and sources to statements of values. Now, if you open your hymnal to hymn number 1 and then turn back 1 page, you'll see the list of principles and sources. You might not have known that was in there. If, when you come into the building, you now pause at the new screen that's on the wall right as you enter, you will see a graphic of the new values: justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, generosity, with love at the center. So I want to acknowledge that we are a congregation of individuals, each with deeply held beliefs, and the outcomes of the votes this past week may or may not represent what you, as an individual, wanted or hoped for. Now, whether you are among the 80% who felt it was the right time to change the bylaws and adopt the new language of Article 2, or among the 20% of those who did not, and I know both are represented here in this congregation, you may be grieving the outcome, or you may be celebrating, or you might just be relieved it's all over because you really did not care what the outcome was. But no matter what side you are on, all of you belong here, and it matters that you are here. We have weathered changes before, and we will continue to do so. We are stronger together. There is so much work to do, and now is not the time to disengage from our long history of working on social and political causes. Lives depend on it. The fate of democracy in this country come November depends on it. The principles and sources have shaped who we are, and this new set of values will shape the next generation of Unitarian Universalists. In my mind, both define who I am as a UU and remind me of the kind of person I aspire to be. I consider myself fortunate to have both. Now, at the end of August, we will have a service devoted to this congregation's delegates' experiences at General Assembly, and you'll have a chance to more deeply learn about the resolutions and bylaws that passed. Now, if you are new to us, this may all seem somewhat mysterious or confusing, so I encourage you to stop by a newcomer welcome. If you're here in person, that happens outside these doors, up a little ways and to the left in the Redmond room, and there will be someone there who can help answer your questions and tell you a little bit more about what Unitarian Universalism is. If you are online, I invite you to introduce yourself in the chat so we can welcome you. And you can fill out an online survey, UUAA.org/newcomer survey, which will help us better connect with you. I have one announcement. I'm delighted to announce that today we have a new part-time audiovisual coordinator, whom you may have already read about in the email announcement that went out on Friday. We welcome Crystal Collins. They are at the back table in the tech zone today. Crystal will be the staff lead on audiovisual and technology needs, especially related to the production of our weekly Sunday services. This includes coordinating all of UUAA's AV volunteers and the AV students. Crystal had been a volunteer with us since they moved here in February, and if you're interested in volunteering for this very fun team, please let them know, or me or Dusty, and we'll get you connected. Now, Crystal is the parent of a new junior high school student and loves hiking and music. Please take a moment to welcome them. But a reminder that each week, in the minutes leading up to the service, all the tech folks are working. So please take a moment to say hello and welcome after the service. Now, as we go deeper into this worship hour, and as we focus on the power of radical welcome, I invite us to take a few centering breaths together. And remember, though we've broken our vows 1,000 times, I extend this invitation to each and all. Come, come, whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever you believe or don't believe. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, lover of learning, lover of peace and justice, ours is no caravan of despair. We hold on to hope for the beloved community. Come, yet again, come. Gather in love, gather in community. Come, let us worship together.
The flaming chalice the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, is a reminder that we do not have to think alike to love alike. Whatever brought you to UUAA today, you are welcome here. Radical Welcome, one of our 3 Vision 2050 priority areas, is the spiritual practice of embracing and being changed by the gifts, presence, voices, and power of the other. The people systematically cast out of or marginalized within a church, a denomination, and/or society. Wanderers, worshipers, lovers of leaving. No one is outside the circle of love. Today, I would like to invite Rowan Anders and Ev Anders-Lee to join us on the chancel to light the chalice. As Rowan and Ev light our chalice here in the sanctuary, we invite our online community to light a chalice of your own, perhaps sharing in the chat, the chalice is lit, and from where you're joining us today. Will you please join me as we speak together our chalice lighting words? We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you, Rowan. Thank you, Ev. Reverend Theresa just told us, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times, come, yet again, come, come. Now, we didn't sing those words this morning in our Music for Gathering, but that is the line that ends the Rumi quote that inspired this first hymn. It seems like such a UU line to have been left out of the hymnal. Ours is no caravan of despair. No. Ours is a covenantal faith that cherishes the hope that there is always the possibility of repair. That love is at the center of all we do, and that we manifest this love in our support for one another, even and especially when we have broken our vows. Let us join together in speaking the words of our covenant. The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another.
Have any of you ever pretended not to like something that you actually really love just because you worried about what your friends might think, or your family might think, or somebody around you might think? Or have you pretended to love something that you're not actually into at all because you wanted to fit in? Can I see a show of hands for those of you that have experienced this? Yes. Why do we do that? Does anybody have any thoughts about why we do this? What was that? Yeah, we want to fit in. We want to be cool. I mean, I'm not sure I can top that answer, frankly, because that really is what it comes down to, right? If you're a kid, that's what you do? I have news for you, April. That's also what you do when you're an adult. So my kids and I saw Inside Out 2 last week. Has anyone seen this movie yet? Highly recommend. I promise no spoilers, but for those of you that don't know these magical Pixar films, they're about a child named Riley and her relationship to her emotions, which are depicted as human-like characters that live in her mind and help her develop her sense of self as she grows from a little girl into an adolescent and then into a teenager in this second film. Now, I just have to say, on a personal note, I saw the first movie when I was very, very pregnant with my twins who are sitting over there, and my older daughter was 2.5, which is exactly the age that Riley was at the beginning of the first movie, and oh my goodness, I basically cried the entire film. So these mean a lot to me. Now, the film's primary focus is on the complexity of Riley's emotional life. But it's also about Riley's desire to belong. It's about her need to fit in, to be cool. How much of herself is she willing to sacrifice to make friends and feel accepted? There are moments in the film when Riley gives in to peer pressure. Is that true belonging? If you have to compromise your values, your authentic self, for the sake of other people's approval? Or does belonging only happen when you find a community built on trust, where you know that you deserve to be loved because of who you are? A community that recognizes and embraces your individuality, the special gifts that you offer. Our story for all ages this morning is about a friendly triangle that searches far and wide for belonging and discovers that beauty is in welcoming everyone. The Perfect Fit, written by Naomi Jones, illustrated by James Jones. This is Triangle. Triangle loved rolling with the circles. Whee! But sometimes she felt a bit different. The circles didn't mind when Triangle accidentally bumped into them, but Triangle did. She felt like she was getting in their way. So she decided to find somewhere she could truly belong. Just around the corner, Triangle discovered some squares. Hey, Square, step on up. Come and play with us, the squares said. So Triangle did. They played all sorts of games, and it was brilliant. Let's build a tower, one of the squares suggested. So Triangle hopped up to help, but they all came crashing down. Sorry, Triangle cried. It's okay, said the squares, we don't mind. But Triangle did. She didn't want to spoil their game. She shook her head. I need to find somewhere I fit perfectly. Around the next corner, Triangle found some hexagons. Do you want to play? They asked. Triangle nodded. There were so many games Triangle could play with the hexagons. I'm ice cream. Cool. It was lots of fun. Let's make a pattern, the hexagon suggested. Triangle joined in, but she kept making the pattern different, not the same. Not again. We can play something else, the hexagon said. But Triangle decided to say goodbye and keep on going. Triangle searched and searched. Hello? But couldn't find anywhere she fit perfectly. Anybody there? She was starting to feel very fed up. Anyone? Maybe there aren't any other triangles. Maybe I'm the only one. But then she looked up and thought she saw a familiar shape in the sky. You're not a triangle, are you? Triangle asked. Almost, but not quite, the star said. Triangle sighed. Don't worry, there are shapes that look exactly like you, and they're not that far away. Finally, she found them. Triangles that were exactly the same as her in every single way. She rushed over to join them. Woohoo! Room for one more! Together they played lots of triangle games, and it was wonderful. What shall we do next? One of the triangles asked. Let's roll, Triangle suggested. But none of the other triangles knew how to roll. stuck! As Triangle tried to show them, she thought about all the fun she'd had with the other shapes, and it gave her an idea. Let's go. Follow the leader. You found the others, the star called down. I did, Triangle replied, and we had lots of fun. But I realized there was something missing. Everyone else. Over here. Come with me. Follow me. Would you all like to play with me? The shapes were very excited. They all had a brilliant time. And even though Triangle wasn't exactly the same as everyone else, it was still a perfect fit. The end. And now is the time in our service when we sing our children out of this space. I invite all of our young people who are participating to follow me to the Foz Chapel as the congregation sings with love and tenderness.
Since I am here today to explore with you the topics of idolatry and radical welcome, perhaps you will find it odd, if not ironic, that my first task is to ask you for money. Money, a false idol, if ever there was one. And what kind of welcome is that? Our weekly offering centers not on money itself, but on the spiritual practice of giving. To be called into this practice is to receive a welcoming invitation into our communal life. All may partake in this ritual, whatever you give and however you choose to give it. Let us not forget that our gifts take many forms, not just financial. We give of ourselves in time and energy, and in our thoughtful, loving embrace of each other. All this and more flows from our hearts and into our shared life. During this ritual time, I invite you to reflect about how this community feeds your spirit and the ways you find to replenish the shared well that nurtures us. This act of reflection opens a portal into our circle of belonging, where all are welcome. And as for that false idol, money, the god of our consumer culture, now is the time to reorient ourselves and think anew about what we have and what we wish to do with it. We turn away from the drumbeat of consumerism to embrace our vision for the future, our call for a safer, healthier, and more just world. We set aside a portion of our bounty and offer it up to this vision of a better world. Today's offering will go to the programs and ministries of this congregation as we work to bring into being the future we envision. To make your contribution, I offer you several options. You may text UUAA to 73256 or visit uuaa.org/giving and select weekly offering for the fund. Or, if you are here in person, you may drop cash or checks into the baskets as the ushers make their rounds. However you choose to give, thank you for your generosity as we move into this ritual time of sharing. I invite the ushers to please come forward as this morning's offering is gratefully given and received. Thank you, y'all come singers. Y'all showed up. As our ushers now come forward, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as you are comfortably able. And as we prepare to dedicate our offering, let us celebrate the many ways we support each other and this, our beloved community. Together, let us say, to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you. Please be seated.
In addition to the Article 2 language, several actions of immediate witness and business resolutions were proposed and voted on at General Assembly, which was a virtual gathering this year. An action of immediate witness, or AIW, is a statement about a significant action, event, or development in the world that needs immediate engagement and action from UU member congregations and groups. Members voted to support an AIW in solidarity with Palestine, affirming their right to self-determination and condemning the violence and oppression they face. A responsive resolution is a brief advisory statement that expresses the sentiment of the delegates. A responsive resolution in support of release of all hostages from October 7 and acknowledges the suffering of the Jewish people within and beyond our association also passed. The denomination put forth a business resolution stating that embracing transgender, non-binary, and intersex people is a fundamental expression of UU religious values. Now, the parliamentary, yes? No question. The parliamentary process at General Assembly allows for speakers to express pro and con views on resolutions. Now, there were speakers opposing that particular business resolution whose words caused direct harm to the trans, non-binary, intersex community, many of whom were in the virtual space, serving as delegates, or just attending General Assembly. A powerful response by the Reverend Jakaran Olayoya that centered love was offered. It is her words that people are reading and sharing, not the hateful comments. They are words that center love. They are words of radical welcome. So now, as you settle in for a moment, you may close your eyes or leave them open. Let your body feel what is most comfortable for you. Breathe in any way that breath comes to you. To the gender-diverse beloveds of UUAA, in person, online, anywhere, anytime, know that you belong here, that you are loved. Know that this is a faith community that embraces your wonderful authenticity, every part of who you are. Let us each breathe in love for each other and breathe out peace. So breathe in love. Breathe out peace. with laughter, drown the raucous shout. And though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in. If you would remain seated and in the spirit of meditation, please join in singing hymn number 1 in the gray hymnal. May nothing evil cross this door. Hymn number 1.
My first experience of idolatry came when I was 5 years old, and my mother took me to see the biblical epic, The Ten Commandments. It is a story of Moses freeing the Israelites from enslavement in Egypt, their escape into the wilderness, and their 40 years of wandering in the desert. I don't remember much of the movie itself. Only a few vivid scenes have stayed with me, foremost among them, the parting of the Red Sea, a noisy phantasmagoria of crashing water and drowning Egyptians. If you are looking to literalize your biblical metaphors, this movie is a good place to start. But the scene that concerns us here tells the story of the golden calf. When Moses comes down from the mountain bearing the Ten Commandments, what should he find but revelry, a party going on? You see, God kept Moses up there so long, the people began to forget their purpose. They even forgot Moses himself. We don't know what has become of him, they complain. So, they melt down their gold jewelry, and from it they fashion a golden calf, a calf that becomes as a god to them. They make sacrifices to it, lift it up in veneration, and sing and cavort around it. The idol becomes a false god, and the sin of idolatry is born. Why have I been reliving this scene? and dwelling on idolatry itself, the act of choosing a false god to venerate. Well, look around you. Our culture has become a hotbed of idolatries. From consumerism to narcissism, from the prosperity gospel all the way to white Christian nationalism. The prosperity gospel, made popular by megastar evangelical preachers, tells us that God wants us to be wealthy. If you pray enough, if you believe enough, and, tellingly, if you send enough money to the preacher himself, God will reward you with worldly success. This is all said with a straight face, in direct contravention to the teachings of Jesus, who champions the poor and the oppressed, and advises us in no uncertain terms to give away all that we own in order to follow him. If the prosperity gospel weren't bad enough, we now have an even more dangerous idolatry gaining ground in this country. The rise of white Christian nationalism makes the prosperity gospel look like a friendly game of Monopoly. White Christian nationalism is sweeping the American evangelical church, deposing preachers who will not fall into lockstep with the creed that God is American, that a certain political party is the one true religion, and a certain former president has been sent by God to crush God's enemies. This movement relies on many false idols, among them white supremacy, patriarchy, theocracy, and, most frighteningly, a certain former president himself, portrayed as Christ-like, an anointed messenger from heaven. Nothing in Unitarian Universalism even comes close to what I have just described. Yet I wonder, even so, if there could be a lesson for us here. In other words, do we have anything like a false god? Is that even possible in a faith that is not God-centered? It is covenant, not God, that lies at the center of our faith, although covenant is not alone there. I spoke earlier, and our choir sang, of a circle of belonging that widens to embrace us all, an ever-expanding circle that holds us in love and care. It surrounds our center, a growing, living thing. It holds our values and our visions, our commitment to social justice, our spiritual journeys and yearnings, our communal life. It is the love that binds us. Our beloved community, grounded in the covenantal promises we make to each other, is wide and deep and all-embracing. This is what we hold dear and lift up in celebration. Here is where I think we can trip ourselves up, when our celebration takes a subtle turn and we find ourselves basking in our uniqueness with a little too much fervor. We ourselves can become the false idol. This type of self-congratulation, when taken too far, threatens to turn us into a closed, charmed circle. For example, we think of ourselves as thoughtful, educated, right-thinking people. We are philosophy professors, not ditch diggers. We say, we're not for everyone, without even hearing the classism, the judgment, and the outright ungraciousness embedded in those words. There is no getting around it. We can be smug. Now, let me be clear that this criticism is communal. It does not target any one person or group, but rather all of us together, and most especially myself. Going back to the claim that we're not for everyone, I once thought that myself. But I am learning that it is not for us to decide who belongs, but for seekers themselves to discover. And in order for them to discern and discover, we must open our doors and invite them in. As practitioners of radical welcome, we are for everyone who wants us, everyone who seeks us, everyone who comes through these doors. Our sign out front should read, "Seekers Welcome," in capital letters. For those of you who may be new to our congregation, please know that radical welcome emerged from a recent UUAA visioning process as what we call a priority action area. In short, we are committed to practicing welcome radically, opening our hearts to everyone. And I do pray you have felt this welcome in your time with us. Now, if you are thinking that welcoming all who come to us is a given, let me tell you a story. A few years ago at a church event, I was talking with a friend and the then senior minister. The friend told us that while greeting one Sunday, they advised a woman who had identified as Christian that she would not feel comfortable here and would do well to go to a different church. The visitor was turned around and sent home. I protested, "But you know I'm Christian." And came the reply, "Yes, but we forgive you." This was a double violation of any welcoming practice, radical or not. First, our would-be visitor, now forever a stranger to us, was turned away. And second, I was put in my place, and my place, at that moment at least, was on the outside looking in. So the practice of radical welcome is not as simple as we might think. Often, we fail to understand that it is in play, even when it comes up and clobbers us on the head. Here's another story to illustrate that point, but from a different angle. When Ed and I were first married, I was still finishing college, and the only job Ed could find in our small college town was as a laborer in a foundry. It was dirty, nasty work, and Ed slogged off before dawn every morning and staggered home in the afternoon, exhausted and covered in soot. One day I came home with a classmate to whom I was lending a book, only to find Ed sprawled on the floor in front of the space heater, groggy and filthy. We just about tripped over him as we walked through the door. Ed had been too tired to shower and had simply passed out on the spot. Eventually, the story came back to me that my classmate was spreading the word that I was married to just a worker. Excuse me. This story has layers. First of all, in our mind, Ed was not just a worker. He was then and remains now bright and educated and world-traveled. And while just a worker became a great inside joke that we took in good spirit, there is uneasiness in the humor. What's wrong with being a worker? And what does just a worker mean, anyway? And why this caveat about bright and educated and well-traveled? It took us a while for us to unpeel the onion and realize that it was not Ed who had been insulted, but his co-workers, not a single one of whom was just a worker. And now, when I think about radical welcome and this faith, these are the sorts of questions I grapple with. What's wrong with being a ditch digger? Why apologize if your child drops out of college to become, say, a dog trainer? shouldn't our sense of ourselves reside somewhere other than in our achievements and our status? How do we topple this false god, the smugness of our own superiority? For it is just this smugness that threatens the heart of our faith and the expansive, expanding circle that gives us shelter. We become captives of our own distorted self-image, creating our own golden mirror, as it were, in which to admire and venerate ourselves. Now, I'll be the first to admit that as golden idols go, ours is hardly a mortal sin. It isn't a sin at all, but rather a failing, a habit we have fallen into, a form of self-celebration that overshadows the very thing we should be celebrating. Call it idolatry light. We may not be lost in the wilderness, but we are wandering around more than is needful. The good news is that we have already chosen the path that will shatter our golden mirror and allow us to live more fully into our life-giving faith. The self-congratulation that can hamper our welcoming practice can be overcome by the very practice itself. Radical welcome challenges our self-regard and helps us get down off our high horse. Once we allow ourselves to see siblings in faith hiding everywhere in plain sight, our views shift, our judgments soften, our hearts change. Radical welcome, the practice of opening our doors and our hearts to everyone who crosses our threshold, is transformative. This transformation comes full circle, bringing change to everyone, every step of the way. It starts with us and swings around to end with us as well. The process takes root in our hearts as we re-examine those whom we consider different from ourselves. Where does the mantra, "We're not for everyone," kick in for you? Perhaps you're not everyone's, belong to a coven, or some other group that might seem alien to you. Maybe they lack formal education, are neurodiverse, or don't speak English very well. Maybe they don't speak at all, in any language. Perhaps they are non-binary, or polyamorous, or both. Whoever it is, our job is to recognize our biases and readjust our thinking. We are already embarked on this work, and I dare say we are moving away from categorizing and judging people in these simplistic ways. This is precisely the transformation that radical welcome works upon us. Already, its resuscitating breath is swirling around and through us. As our minds swing open, so too do our doors. The next sweep of the arc of transformation comes as people find their way to us. They come because we've invited them and welcomed them in. They come because they've heard of us. Word of mouth has a way of finding those who need the good news. Knowing, as we do, that seekers don't always know what they're looking for until they find it, we turn no one away. And so they arrive, and our transformation deepens as we set about changing each other. It is a mutual dance. The call to welcome changes and heals us, and seekers make their home among us, bringing their dreams and gifts and insights. In this vision, we are not saviors, we are collaborators. And so we come full circle, new people on a new path. Fully engaging radical welcome is a practice in humility, and humility is the best antidote to smugness. We grow into our best selves, open and trusting, ready to learn and change and flourish. The stranger who seemed so odd and different becomes one of us, and in a life lesson both profound and blindingly obvious, we find we are enriched by their presence. As our circle widens, we become more grounded, more giving, less full of ourselves. We walk humbly on our path. As we travel this path, let us be loving to ourselves and to each other, even as we shower love on all who come to us. Our faith is strong, our values are good and sustaining, and we are companions on this wild, joy-filled journey called Unitarian Universalism. Our beloved community cradles us in love and schools us in humility as our arms reach toward the future that awaits us. Together, let us draw the circle, draw it wide and wider and ever wider still. May it be so.
Would you rise as you are comfortably willing and able, and turn in the gray hymnal to hymn number 295, Sing Out Praises for the Journey, hymn number 295.
Friends, we are not perfect, but we are good, and our hearts are kind and true. As we extinguish our chalice, may its light spill over us and through us and out into the broken world. Let us walk humbly and faithfully on our path of welcome and all-embracing love. Go in peace. Amen.